All have the opportunity to vote in a historic governor's race November 2nd. Two women will be on the ticket. And Calvey versus Lankford and two independents. Our local lawmakers sound off about this heated runoff race. Here's Scott Mitchell with today's Your Vote Counts.
2 words: girl power. Okay?
Yes.
4 times in the history of this nation have women been atop the ticket for a gubernatorial race. Twice. New Mexico, next door this November as well. How did Jerry Askins, which most people I believe would believe is an upset, pull the upset over Attorney General Drew Edmondson?
Well, first of all, this was a virtual tie. I mean, she won by 1,400 votes, which is less than 1 vote per precinct in Oklahoma. There are a number of factors. I believe her campaign was much more equipped to get out the vote on that particular day. She had a lot of young women voters that were energetic about her candidacy. There was a low voter Democratic turnout. I think it was like 800,000 more Republicans that voted in this. And, of course, you always have to talk about the Barry Switzer factor. She squeaked by. She also got $10,000, $5 each from Tyson and Simmons, the chicken people. So this was a dead heat. She just happened to nose ahead. That's what happened.
Well, and on the Republican side, no surprise there. Mary Fallon, Congresswoman Mary Fallon Colby looking really strong.
Yeah, looking really strong. And I think that now we keep hearing, obviously, the story the last couple of days has been we're going to have an all-female governor's race. The comparisons really stop at them being both women and them being both current lieutenant governors or former lieutenant governors. I think we're going to see the lines drawn in the sand. I think you're going to see on one side of a conservative in Mary Fallon, and I think we're going to see Jerry Askins. We got to call her record into question. Her time in the legislature, conservative index was 21%. My friend over here, Richards, is twice that in his current service in the House.
Well, okay. We'll be talking about that this whole fall. That is going to be fun. So we'll be looking forward to that. Congratulations to Congressman Fallon, Lieutenant Governor Askins. So let's go back to you, Colby, on the 5th District race, which is a runoff, a bit of a surprise because James Lankford finished in front of Kevin Calvey. Where is that race going to go?
You know, I would say right now it's Mr. Lankford's to lose. I think we were all a little surprised. The polls didn't even predict that he would actually end up on top. Towards the end, they did say it was his race, his and Calvey's race at the end, and he was gaining steam. I think what it says is that Oklahomans in the 5th District, as well as Oklahomans and people in this country, really feel like Washington's gone a bad way. They're ready for a fresh face. They're ready for new ideas. And if it's somebody who hasn't held political office before, then they see he's more than qualified and maybe even more qualified than the rest. But I would say it's a shocker. It's a stunner. I know they're talking about it in Washington. It's a big deal.
And on the Democrat side, we won't be seeing too many Democrats running as progressive FDR types in the future because Tom Guild ran that kind of campaign as well as Jim Wilson. They both lost. Billy Coyle's a new star on the horizon. He wins the Democrat primary. Can he win in November?
Absolutely, he can win in November. Remember that the Askins and Edmondson people are united. They're all coming together. By the way, Fallon only won by 5 percentage points. I want to ask something else, Colby. You know, she was complaining that she didn't get a chance to vote on Tuesday. Well, she had 3 days prior to that to vote. I guarantee you if it was a Democrat that didn't vote, the newspapers and the media would be all over that. But somehow she didn't have time to vote in her own election. She's been in office for, I don't know how long, 16 years. But back to the 5th District real quick. I'm tired of Republicans saying that the most patriotic, faith-based. Billy Coyle is a Marine. He's a family man. He's going to take a run at them, and I wouldn't count him out.
And a couple of independents in the fall.
It was Nancy Pelosi who called Mary Fallon back to Washington on Election Day.
You know what? You'd think she'd know her own schedule. She's been in office for 16 years, and she still won.
She wanted to vote on Election Day with the people.
You know, she had 3 days to vote, and she didn't do it. I guarantee if it was a Democrat, it'd be blasted all over the place.
Campaign's over for a couple more days. So all right, let's get to the winner's circle. What is the race that stands out to you? There's the Pruitt-Leonard race. Scott Pruitt winning on that. John Crawford, a blast from the past insurance commissioner, wins a primary. He still has to go into a runoff with Mr. Doak. But what stood out to you?
Well, obviously, the Askins-Edmondson thing clearly stood out, but the Republican race for Attorney General was clearly the race that stood out. This was a nasty dogfight between these two. I don't know how either camp is going to reconcile with the other, which means that Jim Price, the Democrat, as well as all the other statewide office holders that are Democrats, are going to come around the outside well. We are going to shock the Republicans in November because they are divided. Lankford, Calvey, where are you going to go with that? The only moderate place you can go is on the Democratic side. And, Colby, you are going to be surprised. You are not going to have the landslide victories that you predicted.
Jim Priest is a very conservative Democrat, and he's waiting there for Scott Pruitt. That'll be an interesting race. What stood out to you, Colby?
Well, I'll tell you what. First thing is the very top of the ticket. You had more Republicans show up in a primary election in the history of the state. I think that shows the enthusiasm on the Republican side. You're wrong, Richard. record, you'll see a Republican windfall like a Democrat windfall you had in 2006. As far as what stands out, I'm going to go back to what you said, Scott, and that is John Crawford. John Crawford, who's already been endorsed by the third individual in the race. I believe his name was Croucher, who came in third, has been endorsed. He does have the name ID. I see him picking up steam, and that was kind of a surprise to me, but it shows you name ID does matter.
You know what's interesting is that 12 years ago, the editorial writers decided to get rid of John Crawford, and they gave us Carol Fisher. We'll make up our own minds this time, okay?
I agree.
Hey, let's do this. Let's talk about the announcement from Speaker-to-be Steele that there has been conference committee reform, CCR reform. Tell us all about it.
Well, the Speaker designate did release, Representative Steele did release a memo yesterday making some changes in the CCR process, the conference committee process that you do see at the end of session. Kudos to my colleague, Richard Morissette here. He's been saying it needs to be changed for a long time, and I think we're seeing some. The two biggest parts is that you will look at meeting, conference committee reports actually meeting, also a hard 24-hour rule at the end of session, even if it is the last day. So if it's 4 o'clock on the last day of session, the only thing that could be taken up was something that was met and looked at by 4 o'clock on Thursday.
We've been screaming about it.
Right.
Are you taking your hat off to Speaker Steele?
Yeah, yes, I will take my hat off to Speaker Steele. Colby, thank you for that. I hope that we do that. As far as transparency, transparency is the rule of the day. Everything needs to be on the up and up so everybody can see it. I am a little disturbed with the present Speaker, though. You know, Colby, the House of Representatives hired a law firm from Edmond at $250 an hour for something to defend us for something that I don't know about. Yet we don't have enough money to make sure that each one of us has a legislative assistant throughout the legislative session. Certain legislators get special treatment, and the rest of us get thrown under the bus. I want equality for all of us. It's a good start, I agree, but let's keep moving forward.
You know about that.